thank you for the members of this joint committee for conducting these hearings. I want to preface my testimony, and it's very much shortened in for your benefit, with two aspects. One, my bias, and then my opinion. And my bias is I'm pro-taxpayer. That's in a nutshell, that's how I rate myself. My opinion, and I'm going to use a door that was opened by Representative Sweeney. I believe the taxpayers, especially those who pay property tax in Ohio, are getting screwed. So thank you for that opening for me. In general, what I am going to talk about is there are two aspects to most people's property taxes: inside millage and outside millage. I think everybody understands those components. Inside millage, as we all know, moves proportionately with valuation. So all boats rise. That inside millage is shared amongst local entities within a county. So for example, in Geauga County, 45% of the inside millage goes to schools. 30% goes to local governments, which would be a township, a village, a city, and then the remainder goes to the county, about 25%. So as you can see, the lion's share of that inside millage goes to schools. When that increases, the lion's share of that increase goes to the schools. The outside millage component is the one I want to address in my testimony. And that happens when there are schools at the 20 mil floor. And in Ohio, there are approximately 611 school districts. Roughly 65% of them are at the floor. Of those 65% of them, every year there's a calculation to determine if they fell below the floor or if they're remaining at or above the floor. If they fall below the floor, the state adjusts their revenue to bring them back to the floor, basically giving them additional revenue. There's an inherent unfairness with that calculation. What people don't often understand is House Bill 920, while it protects the changing of that valuation, it does give a calculation incentive to schools that are at the floor or below. And it uses an effective millage calculation. So in that regard, if a school drops below, that raising of the bar, so to speak, is a direct tax to taxpayers that never voted on it. When they passed certain levies, they did not know those levies would or wouldn't be counted in that calculation. So House Bill 920's floor calculation excludes very significant revenue which schools benefit from. Revenue due to emergency levies, substitute levies, permanent improvement levies, incremental levies, bonds, and income tax. If a school has any of those kind of levies, that millage amount effectively is not counted in their floor calculation. When a taxpayer is going to the ballot to decide whether an emergency levy should be voted on or not, they have no understanding of that. They do not understand that should they vote in favor of it, their tax is a variable when the valuations change. So my proposal to you is very simple. I would suggest you include certain factors into the floor calculation. Those factors would be an emergency levy, a substitute levy, and then any inside millage that's transferred to a permanent improvement fund, because those are also excluded. And lastly, create an effective millage calculation for income taxes for schools, and that should be included in the floor calculation. That would truly give the taxpayer a better shape, if you will, for what they're voting on, and it would also level the storm. This would ultimately affect over 50% of the school districts who are at the floor. That's the conclusion of my testimony. I've given you a lot of pages with data on it. I'm happy to answer any questions.
I appreciate that. I would like you to expand on one thing, and then we'll get to a former auditor here in a second. You just said create an effective millage calculation. Could you expand on that a little bit, please?
So schools are permitted to put income taxes on the ballot, and when they do, it results in a certain dollar amount of revenue for them on a yearly basis. That dollar amount can be easily converted annually to an effective millage rate. And then that effective millage rate would go into their floor calculation.
Excellent. Thank you for the clarification. Senator O'Brien.
Thank you, Senator Rowe. Thank you, Senator Rowe. And I am so proud of Geauga County, and especially you, Auditor Walden, for your leadership on the Budget Commission. Those of us who are familiar with the Budget Commission, a lot of what you do is optional, not mandatory. And what I watched you do in Geauga County was educate your political subdivisions on how this unvoted massive windfall of property tax increases was affecting them. So I would like for you to explain what you actually did and how many of your subdivisions you got to not take this increase in property taxes by reducing their millage. Because I think people here should understand that it can be done, and you're the person to explain it, please.
Thank you, Senator Roy, and to the chairs. I appreciate the accolades. I'm one of 3 members of the Budget Commission, and clearly one member of a 3-panel board can't do anything. But I'm very privileged to have very supportive members on that commission who understand what our role is. So in Geauga, we were experiencing a $16 million increase in taxes due to the revamp. $10 million of it approximately was inside millage, $6 million was floor adjustment for just 2 school districts out of 5. So we took a look at that and we realized that our taxpayers would not only become absolutely irate with us, but it was an unfair approach to taxation because they never experienced that they were going to be voting for that when they passed the levies. So the Budget Commission elected to write letters to all of the taxing authorities, and we begged them, we asked them to look at their budgets and recognize this was money they did not budget for. They did not anticipate it. And in doing so, to give some relief to the taxpayers. So of the 5 school districts, we had 1 school district, and my understanding is they're the only school district in the state of Ohio that did this. They mitigated $1 million of their $1 million inside millage, and I give them all the credit for that. Of the remaining entities, and there are 22 remaining entities that received an inside millage windfall, 18 of the 22 mitigated their inside millage money. So of the $10 million total in inside millage rise, over $5 million of it was mitigated to the taxpayers. But then 100% of the load from the outside the 10 mil limitation, the floor adjustment, that kicked in and affected those residents.
Follow-up?
Yeah, just that was no small accomplishment, and I do credit the other members of the Budget Commission. But you took a lot of time to do this, and look at what you did for your taxpayers. Kudos to you.
Appreciate it. Unfortunately, it's a 1-year solution, right? So we're looking forward to your work, and I can't over-express. I've met with our Budget Commission. We've talked about what we're doing here, and they are very supportive of your initiative, and we thank you for the time you're spending on this.
Other questions? Representative Troy.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Auditor Walter, for just making it. So when you got these entities to reduce the inside millage, I mean, and we did it in Lake County, we reduced the county's 2.1 down to 1.0, but I had to make sure that nobody else could grab that. I mean, how were you able to do that so that somebody else says, oh, of course, they're not going to use it, I'll take it?
Yep, that's a great question, and thank you for that. So to be clear, what we used the dollar amount of the inside millage increase, what we recommended to all of the taxing entities is they reduced the collection of a voting levy, which would not make inside millage available for other grabs. Our worry was exactly as you indicated. Once we make that inside millage available, it's a money grab, and the effect of the taxpayer is negligible.
Follow?
Yeah, just to follow up, so when we had testimony, I can't remember, was it this committee or the Ways and Means Committee, from a group of auditors, it was interesting that certain auditors said, yeah, the Budget Commission is empowered to reduce the collections on these things. And then some auditors said, my prosecutor says I'm not allowed to do that. So I know you have a good relationship with Mr. Flay, so I mean, what about the fact that sometimes entities don't need that much money next year, but obviously they like to stockpile it because it keeps them away from the ballot for a longer period of time?
Thank you for the question. So one of the school districts in my county that received both inside millage and floor adjustment came before the Budget Commission within weeks after the reappraisal for 2025. And the Budget Commission spent over an hour and 40 minutes weighing their submission of requirement. The Budget Commission's duty is pretty simple. We are to determine whether you have justified the need for the revenue that you're seeking from the taxpayer. And if the need is not being represented, we are obligated to return it to the taxpayer. So this particular school district had $29 million in the bank unencumbered. We then elected to reduce $2.3 million of their emergency money to bring them to a break-even spending pattern with their revenue. We did that after a lot of debate and consternation. It's not something we wanted to do, but we felt it was our obligation to do it because the taxpayers should not be paying more tax so that a school can bank the money. If they're spending it on students, we were fully in favor of it, but they could not articulate that.
Any other questions for the witness? Thank you.